Every sailor knows when to run from a storm and when to hold course. This is the first thing the sea teaches you. When the mountain opened, every ship in the bay turned away from it. Every captain gave the order to make for open water. Every sailor pulled hard on the oars. You turned your ship around. You rowed toward it. You had your reasons. Before we begin, this is the story of a captain on the Bay of Naples on the day Vesuvius erupted. You have been sailing these waters for 31 years. You know this bay the way you know your own hands. The currents, the wind patterns, the particular way the light falls on the water in the late afternoon when the heat of the day is breaking. You know where the rocks are, and where the sand shifts, and which channels run deep and which run false. You have captained merchant vessels, troop transports, and in the early years, before you had your own ship, everything that would take you on. Your ship is a Liburnian, a fast coastal vessel, built for the kind of work you do, moving people and cargo along the Italian coast, stopping at the ports that line the bay, carrying the trade that keeps these cities breathing. You know her weight and her moods. You know how she sits in the water when she is loaded, and how she handles when she is light. You have been on this ship for 11 years, and there is no part of her you do not know. Today she is in the harbor at Misnum, 20 miles from Pompeii across the bay. You woke this morning expecting an ordinary day, a cargo to load, a departure in the afternoon, an overnight run north along the coast. The mountain had different plans. In this story, you are him. This is your voyage, and the question you will ask yourself for the rest of your life is, did you do enough? You wake on the ship. You sleep aboard when you are in port, which surprises some people who assume a captain of your experience would want a bed on land. But the ship is where you sleep best. The slight motion of a vessel at anchor, and the sound of water against the hull, the particular creaks and settlings of a wooden ship at rest. These are the sounds of your life. A room on land is too still. You rise and go up to the deck. The morning is clear, the bay flat and bright in the early light. Misenum Harbor is already moving, the fishing boats going out with the dawn, a merchant vessel being loaded at the far dock, the ordinary noise and motion of a working port. Across the bay, 20 miles east, you can see the coast of the Campania region. On a clear morning like this, you can make out the shape of the towns along the shore, the white of their buildings, the hills behind them, and behind the hills Vesuvius, its familiar bulk dark against the sky, its peak touching a small collar of cloud the way it sometimes does in the morning. You look at it for a moment, and the cloud seems slightly thicker than usual, slightly lower on the peak. You note this without attaching significance to it. You have looked at that mountain from this bay for 31 years, and it has always been there, and it has always looked like a mountain. You go below to eat. Bread and dried fish, the same breakfast you have eaten on ships your whole life. You drink water. You review the cargo manifest for the afternoon departure. The morning is ordinary. For 2 more hours it will stay that way. The sea gives you early warnings about most things. A change in the color of the water, a shift in the wind before the weather turns, the behavior of birds and fish. The sea is not silent. You have learned to read it over 31 years. But some things do not send warnings. Some things simply arrive. You are on the dock, supervising the loading when you hear the sound. It comes from the east, from across the bay. A sound that the distance has reduced to something low and continuous, more felt than heard. The dock workers stop what they are doing. You stop what you are doing. Everyone on the dock stops and looks east. The mountain is different. Where the peak was, there is now something rising, climbing into the sky with a speed that seems impossible for something so large. Black and growing white in shifting layers, spreading as it rises, moving upward and outward simultaneously. The shape of it is unlike anything you have seen. It resembles, in some way you cannot fully articulate, a pine tree, the trunk of it rising from the mountain, and then the canopy spreading wide at great height. Though this is a pine tree made of darkness and fire, and the material of the earth's interior, the dock is completely still. Then it is not still at all. The harbor erupts into its own kind of chaos, captains calling orders, men running, vessels beginning to move. The instinct of every sailor on this water is the same. Get to open sea, get away from the coast. A mountain doing what that mountain is doing will send things toward the shore, ash and wave and whatever else it has to send. You watch the other ships beginning to move. You watch them turn their prows west, away from the mountain, toward the open water of the Tyrrhenian Sea. You stand on the dock and look east across the bay, toward the towns on the far shore, toward Herculaneum and Pompeii and Stabiae, the towns that sit at the base of the mountain and along the coast below it. And you can see, even at this distance, the columns spreading toward them, the sky above them darkening. You think about the people in those towns. Every sailor has a calculation they make when the weather turns dangerous. What is the risk of staying? What is the risk of going? Where is safety most likely to be found? This calculation happens quickly, instinctively, the product of years of experience. You run it now, and the calculation comes out in a direction that surprises you. You go back to your ship. Your first mate is on the deck, watching the column, his face doing what all faces are doing on this harbor, trying to process something too large for ordinary processing. He turns when he hears you come aboard. "We are leaving," he says. It is half question, half statement. The tone of a man who knows the answer and is checking that you know it too. You look at him. You look across the bay at the darkening coast. "We are going across," you say. He looks at you. "Across," he says. "There are people on that shore," you say. "They need boats. We have a boat." The silence between you lasts perhaps 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, you can see him running his own calculation, the one every sailor runs, and arriving at the place where the calculation stops, being about survival, and starts being about something else. He nods. "I will tell the crew," he says. Some of them argue. This is fair. They have the right to understand what you are asking of them, and to refuse if they choose. You explain it plainly. The coast is in danger. People cannot escape without boats. You are going to go as close as the conditions allow, and take as many people as the ship can hold. Anyone who does not want to come can leave now. No consequence, no judgment. 3 men leave. You watch them go without comment. 11 stay. 11 men who have made their own calculation and arrived at the same place you arrived. You cast off. You turn the prow east. There is a moment after a decision, when the decision becomes real. Before that moment, it is still possibility, still something that could be taken back. The moment the lines came off the dock, and the ship began to move east, toward the mountain and the darkening sky and the coast you could already see disappearing into haze. The decision became real. You felt it become real. You kept moving. The crossing takes longer than it should. The wind has shifted. Where the morning had a gentle southwesterly, the air is now doing something confused, pulling in multiple directions. The mountain's column creating its own weather as it rises and spreads. The sails are useless, drawing wrong, filling and collapsing. You take them down. You go to oars. Your crew rows. They are good men, and they pull hard and steadily, the oar strokes settling into a rhythm that you can feel through the deck beneath your feet. You stand at the bow and watch the eastern shore coming closer. The column is vast now. From this distance, from the middle of the bay, you can see its full scale in a way that was not possible from Misenum. It reaches up higher than you can follow with your eyes, disappearing into its own darkness, spreading at the top across a quarter of the visible sky. Below it, the coast is obscured by haze and falling material. Small stones are beginning to reach the ship. Pumice, light and porous, bouncing off the deck, accumulating in the corners. Your crew pulls their tunics up over their heads as they row, using the fabric as improvised protection. The sound of pumice on the deck is rhythmic and constant, like rain on a different kind of water. The water itself is changing. You can feel it in the hull, in the way the ship moves. Debris on the surface, ash beginning to gray the water, and beneath the surface something different in the currents. A disturbance that speaks of what the seafloor is doing in response to what the land is doing. You keep the prow east. You watch the shore coming closer. And the Bay of Naples is one of the most beautiful bodies of water in the world. You have crossed it hundreds of times in every kind of weather and every kind of light. You have crossed it at dawn and at midnight and in winter storms that made the rigging sing. You have never crossed it like this, in the wrong light under the wrong sky, with the wrong smell in the air and the wrong sound on the deck. You keep the prow east. You make for Stabii. Herculaneum and Pompeii are closer, but the wind and the current and the fall of material from the column are all pushing you south along the coast. You read these signs the way you read all signs from the sea, and you adjust. Stabii is a resort town, a cluster of villas along the cliff tops south of Pompeii, the kind of place where wealthy Romans come to summer. Today, it is a place where wealthy Romans are standing on cliff tops, watching the sky and understanding that their summer has ended. The harbor at Stabii is small, and it is chaos. Boats that were there this morning have already left. The boats that remain are being fought over, too many people and too few vessels. The particular desperation of a crowd that has understood simultaneously that the means of escape are limited. You bring your ship in as close as the depth allows. You drop anchor. You lower the small boat. People come. They come into the water to reach you, some swimming, some wading, some being carried by others. Your crew pulls them aboard. You count as they come over the side. 10, 20, 30. Children first where you can manage it. The elderly, the ones who are struggling. The pumice is falling heavier now. Crew has cloth over their faces. The light is wrong. The sky above Stabii a deep and unnatural yellow, and the noise from the mountain is a constant low presence beneath all other sounds. At 40 people you are approaching what the ship can safely carry. You look at the shore. There are still people in the water. There are still people on the cliff tops above, too far to reach. You take 43, 3 more than safe, because safe is a word that has changed its meaning today. A ship has a weight it is built to carry, and a weight it will carry before it becomes a danger to the people on it. You know this weight precisely. You have exceeded it by 3. You look at the people in the water who cannot reach you, and you make the calculation that a captain makes in these moments. The one that has no good answer, only less bad answers. You give the order. You pull anchor. You go. The ship rides low. 43 people on a vessel built for 25. The deck is crowded in a way you can feel in how she handles, sluggish in the turns, slower to respond. Your crew moves carefully around the people, sitting and standing on every available surface. The children are quiet in the way children go quiet, when they can feel the adults around them. Being frightened, you steer west, away from the coast, away from the column toward Misenum and the open water beyond it. The pumice is still falling. The sky to the east is now almost fully dark, the column having spread far enough to block the sun in that direction. What light reaches you comes from the west, clear and ordinary, the light of an afternoon that has not yet understood what is happening 20 miles away. One of the women you took aboard is from Stabii. No, she has a cut on her arm from the scramble into the water. You give her cloth to bind it. She holds her daughter with the other arm and does not speak. A man near the bow is weeping quietly. He got on the ship alone. You do not know what he left behind. You do not ask. Your first mate comes to stand beside you at the helm. We could go back, he says, quietly, so only you can hear. You look at him. The ship is already over, you say. I know, he says. You both look east at the darkening sky, at the coast disappearing into it, at the column still rising, still spreading, still doing what it has been doing since midday with no sign of stopping. We could go back, he says again. There are two kinds of courage. The courage that goes toward danger, because the calculation says it can survive. And the courage that goes toward danger, knowing the calculation has run out. Your first mate is asking you about the second kind. He is not asking you to make a decision. He is asking you what kind of captain you are. What kind of person. You offload the people at Misenum. The harbor there is overwhelmed, people arriving from every direction. The town trying to absorb a flood of refugees from the eastern shore. You bring your 43 in and you help them off and you watch them go into the crowd on the dock, disappearing into the mass of people and noise and ash that is now falling even here, 20 miles from the mountain. Your crew stands on the deck and looks at you. You look at them, 11 men. Some of them have been with you for years. Some you hired for this run and have known for days. All of them crossed once already. And all of them pulled hard on the oars in the wrong weather, toward the wrong shore, for reasons that had nothing to do with their own survival. Same as before, you say. Anyone who wants to stay, stays. No consequence. Nobody moves. You look at them for a moment. 11 men standing on a deck with ash on their shoulders and cloth over their faces, and the mountain visible to the east, still going, larger than it was an hour ago. Cast off, you say. The second crossing is harder than the first. The wind is worse. The pumice on the water is thicker, slowing the oars, requiring the crew to lift the blades higher with each stroke to clear the surface debris. The sky to the east has darkened further. What was yellow is now a deep orange-gray, the color of a sky that has forgotten what blue is. The stones falling on the deck are larger now. Not pumice alone. Heavier material, darker, hitting the wood with sounds that are not the light pattering of the first crossing, but something more deliberate. Your crew rows. You hold the prow east. The sea will test you in the ways it chooses, not the ways you choose. It will give you the storm you are prepared for, and the one you are not. It will give you calm when you expect wind and wind when you expect calm. 31 years and the sea has never once asked your permission for what it was about to do. Today, it is not asking. Today, the mountain is not asking. You row toward it anyway. The second approach to Stabiai takes longer and arrives at a different place. The shore has changed in the hours since you left. The pumice accumulation on the beach is deep enough to see from the water, a pale layer over everything, and the air above the shore is thick enough that visibility is reduced to a few hundred feet. The cliff tops are no longer visible. The harbor structures you navigated by on the first visit are obscured. You anchor further out than before. The water depth here is uncertain. The bottom, potentially changed by what the mountain has been sending into the sea. You trust your instincts and the feel of the hull, and you anchor where you anchor. Fewer people come this time. Some who came to the water's edge turn back before reaching you. The pumice is deep enough on the beach to make movement difficult, and the larger stones falling from above, making the open shore dangerous. Some people, you see, have simply sat down against the cliff wall with cloth over their heads, waiting for something to change or for something to end. You take 21 this crossing, 21 people who make it through the water and over your rail and onto your crowded deck. A boy, perhaps 10 years old, who comes alone. You ask where his family is. He points at the shore. You look at the shore. You look at him. They told me to go, he says. You put your hand on his shoulder. You say nothing. There is nothing to say. The people you cannot reach stay with you longer than the people you carry, the ones who sat against the wall, the ones who turned back from the water, the boy's parents pointing toward the ship. These are the ones that will come back, not in guilt, yet in the clear, honest grief of a person who did what they could and knows exactly where that stopped being enough. The sky goes dark before evening. This is not the dark of nightfall. Nightfall, 31 years of watching it come across the water, the specific progression from gold to orange to red to purple to the first stars. This dark is different. It comes from the east and moves west, and it is the dark of the column spreading across the sky until it covers the sun completely. The world at mid-afternoon becomes the world at deepest night, and the only light is the glow from the mountain's base, distant and orange, pulsing with something that is not fire exactly, but is what fire comes from. Your crew lights the ship's lamps. In the lamplight on the crowded deck, the faces of the people you have brought aboard are ash gray. Their expressions. The expressions of people who have entered a situation their minds have not yet fully accepted. The ship is very heavy. Too heavy now, properly speaking. You have 64 people on a vessel built for 25. The waterline is too close to the deck. In ordinary conditions, this would be serious. In these conditions, with the sea disturbed and the wind unpredictable and visibility near zero beyond the lamplight, this is something you do not let yourself think about for more than a moment at a time. You hold the prow west. The oars move. The lamps burn. The boy who came alone sits near the mast. He has not cried. He sits with his knees drawn up and watches the water, and occasionally looks up at the sky the way children look at things they are trying to understand. You go and sit beside him for a moment. Can you swim? You ask. Yes, he says. Good, you say. Then you have nothing to worry about. This is not entirely true, but it is true enough for a boy sitting near a mast in the dark. A captain is responsible for the ship and for everyone on it. This is the law of the sea, the oldest law, older than Rome, older than the nations that surround this sea. You are responsible for 64 people right now. 64 people who are alive because you turned the prow east when everyone else turned west. You hold on to this. When the weight of the ship feels wrong, and the water feels wrong, and the sky is the wrong color, you hold on to this. You reach Misenum again in the wrong dock. The harbor is different from when you left. More people, more noise. The ash is falling here now in earnest, settling on the water, on the docks, on everything. The torches on the dock are haloed in falling gray. You bring the ship in. Your crew is exhausted. You can see it in the way they move. Slower than this morning. The particular heaviness that comes after hours of hard rowing in bad conditions. They have done 2 full crossings. They have pulled hard on every stroke. You offload the people. The boy goes with a woman who takes his hand without being asked to, a stranger performing the instinctive act of an adult seeing a child alone. You watch him go into the crowd, and then he is gone. Your first mate stands beside you on the emptied deck. You look east across the dark bay. The glow from the mountain's base is visible, even from here, orange and pulsing against the black sky. The column has spread until it covers everything to the east. Somewhere under it, on that shore, are the towns you grew up sailing past, the towns you have stopped at 100 times, the people who did not make it to the water. Your first mate is quiet beside you. The ship won't make a third, you say. No, he says. You stand there for a moment. The ash falls on the deck, on your shoulders, on the water around the hull. The crew, you say. Done, he says. They're done. They did what they could. You nod. There is a line between what a person can do and what a person can be asked to do. You have never been entirely sure where that line falls until you reach it. Your crew rowed toward a burning mountain twice. They took strangers out of the water in the dark. They did this without being ordered, with only your word and their own decision. The line is here. The line is now. You leave the ship with your first mate. This surprises him. You can see it in his face, the question he does not ask. A captain does not leave the ship. This is also the law of the sea, but the ship is not going anywhere tonight, and the people who need help are on land now, not water. The two of you move through Misenum's streets toward the shore road that leads east along the coast. The ash is deep enough here that your sandals sink into it, slightly with each step. The ground soft and gray beneath you. The air is thick enough that you breathe through cloth held over your face. Along the road, people are moving in both directions, most moving west, away from the mountain. Some moving east, toward it, and these are the ones you look at. The ones whose faces hold the expression you recognize. The expression of people going towards something, because someone they love is there. You walk east. You pass people who have stopped walking, sitting at the roadside, too tired or too frightened to continue. You stop at some of them. You give water from the flask you brought. You say what can be said and move on. The road curves along the coast, and from certain points you can see the bay below. In the wrong dark, lit by the glow from the east and the lamps of the ship still moving on the water, the bay looks like something from a story about the end of the world. The ash on the water, the column above everything, the orange pulse of the mountain's base reflecting in the disturbed surface. You have sailed this bay for 31 years. You stand on the road above it and look at it, and something in you understands that what it is now, tonight, is what it will be from now on in your memory. Not the morning's ordinary crossing, not the hundreds of crossings before it. This. The sea keeps everything, every wreck on the bottom, every storm that passed over it, every boat that crossed it. It does not remember these things the way a person remembers them. It simply holds them. The Bay of Naples holds what happened today. It will hold it for as long as water holds things. You will hold it differently, for as long as you hold things. You reach a point on the road where the ash is too deep to go further on foot. Not deep enough to stop you physically. Deep enough that you understand. The calculus has changed again. The people who could be reached by someone on foot in these conditions have already been reached, or have found their own way, or are beyond reaching by anyone. This is a hard thing to know, and you stand in it for a moment before you accept it. On the way you found 4 people, a woman who had fallen and could not get up under her own power, 2 men sheltering under an overhanging rock face, dehydrated, who needed water and company and a direction. An old man sitting in the middle of the road who looked at you when you stopped as if he had been waiting for someone and was mildly surprised that it was you. You brought all 4 back with you, slowly. The old man leaning on your arm, the woman helped by your first mate. Back along the road, back through the ash, back into Misenum, where the noise and the chaos and the crowd received them. You did not find everyone. This is the sentence that sits in your chest and will not move. You did not find everyone. There were people on that coast and in those towns who were beyond what the ship could reach, and beyond what 2 men on foot could reach, and beyond what any of it could reach. You know this. You have always known in the abstract that a captain can only do what a ship can do, and a person can only do what a person can do. Today, you know it differently. Today, you know it in the body. There is no version of this day where you did everything. There is only the version where you did what you did. Which was more than most and less than everything. You will spend time in the nights ahead navigating the distance between those 2 things. It is not a small distance, but it is navigable. You have navigated harder water. You sleep for a few hours in the harbor master's building at Misenum. Not well. A few hours of something that is close to sleep, lying on the floor with your coat over you. The sounds of the harbor coming through the walls. At one point in the night, a larger tremor shakes the building, and you are on your feet before you are fully awake. Old instinct. the body responding to the signal before the mind understands it. You go outside. The sky is beginning to lighten in the west. The east is still dark, still the wrong color, still dominated by the column that has not stopped rising. Your ship is at the dock. Your first mate found a few more crew members during the night and has been keeping watch. The ship is intact. She rode the disturbances in the harbor without serious damage. You walk the dock. You look at her in the early light. Your ship, 11 years, the vessel you know better than anything. She is gray with ash. Her deck is gray. Her hull, where the waterline meets the air, is gray. She looks like a ship from a dream. The shape familiar and the substance wrong. You go aboard. You stand at the helm. The bay in front of you is changed. The water is gray with ash and floating pumice. The eastern shore is not visible through the haze. Where Pompeii was, where Herculaneum was, where the towns and the villas and the roads and the farms and the people were, there is a darkness that the morning light has not yet penetrated and may not penetrate today. A sailor's relationship with the sea is built on the understanding that the sea does not care about you. It does not wish you well or ill. It simply is, and you move through it. And what happens to you happens because of what you know, and what you do, and what the sea chooses to do on any given day. Today, the sea chose, the mountain chose, you chose. All three choices are in the water now, mixed together, inseparable. Your first mate comes to stand beside you at the helm. The two of you look east at the haze and the darkness and the column that is still there, diminished slightly from last night, but still present, still rising, still telling the story of what the mountain is doing. He does not ask the question immediately. He stands beside you for a while, the way men who have worked together for a long time can stand together without filling the space with words. Then he asks it, "Did we do enough?" You look at the haze where the coast should be. You think about the number, 109 people on 2 crossings, the boy who came aboard alone, the 4 people on the road, the woman who had fallen, the old man who looked at you as if he had been waiting. You think about the people in the water who could not reach you on the first crossing, and the ones sitting against the cliff wall, the ones the second crossing could not find. "No," you say. He nods. "But we did what we could," you say. "Yes," he says. "We did that." The two of you stand at the helm of an ash-gray ship on a gray sea, under a wrong sky, and you let the question sit between you without trying to resolve it into something simpler than it is. Did we do enough is never a question with a clean answer. It is a question you carry. You carry it beside the number, beside the faces, beside the boy at the mast and the woman with the cut arm and the old man on the road. You carry all of it, the weight of what you did and the weight of what you couldn't do. These are the same weight. This is what the sea teaches you, eventually, if you spend long enough on it. The carrying is the answer. It's you stay in Misenum for 3 more days. The column from the mountain diminishes on the 2nd day and is gone on the 3rd, leaving behind a sky that is pale and strange and slowly returning to blue. The ash settles everywhere, on every surface, on the water of the bay, on the roads and the rooftops and the gardens. The world has a new layer on it, thin and gray, and under it the old world is still there, but changed in the way things are changed when they are buried and then uncovered. Present but different, preserved and ended at the same time. You make 2 more crossings in those 3 days. Not rescue crossings. The people who could be rescued have been rescued, or are beyond it now. These are crossings to see. To understand the scale of what happened. To look at the coast where the towns were and register what is there now. Which is not nothing, but is not what was there before. The coast has changed shape. The ash and material from the mountain have extended the shoreline in some places and buried it in others. Where Pompeii was, there is a changed topography, the buildings below the surface a gray and undulating plain that gives no sign of what it covers. You stand at the prow on the last of these crossings and look at it for a long time. 31 years of passing this coast. You know it by its shape, by the particular arrangement of land and water, by the way the light hits the hills behind the towns in the late afternoon. That shape is gone. That arrangement is gone. The light in the late afternoon falls on something else now. The sea is already beginning to accommodate it. The water moves the way water always moves, but without reference to what has changed on the shore. The fish are there, below the gray surface, going about their fish business in the deep water, where the ash has not reached. The currents run the way they have always run, following the contours of the sea floor, indifferent to mountains. The sea outlasts everything that happens beside it, and above it, and on it. This is the longest lesson, and the one that takes the longest to learn. You have been learning it for 31 years. You know it now in a way you did not know it yesterday. The Bay of Naples will be here long after every ship that ever crossed it is gone. Long after every person who ever looked at it from its shores is gone. It will carry the ash for a while, and then it will move it. And it will hold the memory of this day in its currents and its depths, and then it will let that go too. This is what water does. This is what the sea is. You stand at the prow. The bay moves under the hull. The mountain is quiet now. Its work done. Its silence after the days of noise more profound than ordinary silence. You look at the changed coast. You think about 109 people. You think about the ones you could not reach. You hold both of these things at the same time. The way you have learned to hold things that do not resolve. The way the sea holds things, without letting go and without being broken by the holding. A note on history. This story is inspired by the real account of Gaius Plinius Secundus, known as Pliny the Elder, who commanded the Roman fleet at Misenum on August 24, 79 AD. When Vesuvius erupted, Pliny ordered his ships to cross the bay toward the affected coast. His nephew, Pliny the Younger, recorded that he received a message from a friend on the stricken shore, and immediately ordered the fleet to her assistance. Pliny the Elder did not survive. He died on the shore at Stabiae, possibly from the effects of the toxic gases released by the eruption, possibly from a heart attack. His nephew wrote 2 detailed letters about the events of that day, letters that remain among the most important historical accounts of the Vesuvius eruption. The number of people rescued by the Roman fleet that day is not recorded, and the fleet consisted of multiple vessels, and Pliny commanded a significant operation. It is reasonable to believe that many people were brought to safety across the bay. The captain in this story is not Pliny the Elder, who was a specific historical figure with a specific recorded biography. He is a fictional Beton inspired by the IE of anyone who turned their ship toward the mountain when everyone else was turning away. 109 people is a number this story invented. The real number is not known, but someone rode toward it. That much is certain. Good night.